So hi guys, so I'm back with another history video. Hopefully you guys know this, but a year ago I made a couple videos for you guys, basically going over Mr. Lammers' final, and you guys all love that. So I decided to do this again. Especially this year is a lot harder with Mr. Page. Well, I shouldn't say harder, but I should say more challenging. He narrowed down what we want to talk about. So hopefully over the future, in the future and in the course of a couple of days, I'm going to be releasing more videos relating to what we're going to be test on in the final, for Mr. Page's final, which is, I believe, on Tuesday. So, I divided all the topics into many different subcategories, and one of them is the Mexican Revolution. So that's going to be the first one I'm going to be talking about today. The Mexican Revolution is pretty important. I did a previous video on it, maybe 6 months ago, and it's not the complete Mexican Revolution. I only did it. I did it from Diaz to Huerta, to the end of Huerta. But I didn't really talk about anything else after that. And that's kind of, I should say, the more important stuff, or the parts that Mr. Page is going to talk about more. And he also wanted us to analyze who Villa and Zapata were, which I think I did a little bit last time, but nevertheless it's more important to emphasize it again. So with that, let's see what we can do. So alright, we're going to talk about Villa first. So he's the most well-known of the people involved in the Mexican Revolution. He is known as a Robin Hood sort of figure, which is partly true. There's some truth to this, where he was sort of a liberator and someone who did things not for the rich, but he did things for the sake of the poor, and that was something that he was well known for. He was from Chihuahua, which is a northern state in Mexico. And he did a lot of things. He did a lot of good things that separate him from the aristocrats. And so what he did is, when he was in the revolution, he employed his soldiers as civil servicemen and administration to rule over the local areas that he just conquered. And he basically would try and implement his own law in those areas. And he reduced meat prices. He distributed money, clothing, and other goods to the poor. So we do see this Robin Hood-esque figure approaching. He's giving things to the poor. He actually loved education. He was he was illiterate, and he wished, so he wanted to spread education. So it's said that he created over 50 schools. He is more, people say he's more radical than Carranza and Obregón, who I will explain who they are later in this video. Now, contrary to popular belief, he didn't distribute land to the people necessarily. That's something that kind of defies the Robin Hood, the Robin Hood persona. He did give food and clothing, but he did not give land directly. What he did is that he took land, so okay, I have land now, and he would basically keep it and say, alright, I'm going to plant stuff, I'm going to do stuff with this, and all the revenue from this I'm going to use to fund the revolution and to keep the revolution alive. So any profit he makes from the land, he's going to be used to to buy more weapons, to buy more horses, to pay off his own soldiers. And he's not going to give it to he's not going to give it to the people. He's not going to do that. Then, when the revolution ends, then he will give the land to the people. But right now, he's using the land to support his own revolution, and in a way, he's kind of benefiting the poor, because in the end, his revolution is meant to support the poor, but not directly. This kind of contrasts what Zapata believes, which I will get in a second. One thing that really contrasts Villa and Zapata is that Villa is from the north and Zapata is from the south. So Villa is from Chihuahua, Zapata is from Morelos. And I'll explain the difference of the way they establish wealth. So if I'm gonna go to Zapata next, and I'll explain things in more detail about what I just said. So first of all, Zapata, in my opinion, he was the only one who fought for the right reason, for the people. He did not want to get any monetary stuff out of this. He did not want like any. He didn't want any like capitalist whatever stuff. He wanted to help the people. He in my opinion is the best. I love this dude. You know, he's just he's so good. And he did all of his actions for the people. That's just something you have to get into your head. All right, Zapata loved the people, so that's something you need to get. Now his history is. Initially, he supported Madero in 1911. He said, okay, we don't like Diaz. Diaz sucks. Diaz, remember, is the dictator who ruled for so long, the Porfiriado. That was the longest reign in Mexican history. So he did not like that because Porfirio Diaz was not very nice to indigenous people, which he was. He did not care for the people. He supported capitalist enterprises, British and American specifically, which angered the people. So he did not like that, and so when Madero said, I'm gonna start a revolution against Diaz, Zapata was all out. He was like, I'm your most faithful servant. You know, I'm gonna support you all the way. And Madero's like, yes, I need that support. That's great. And so Madero wins, and he takes over, and that's great. However, when Madero says revolution, it's not very revolutionary. I'm hitting back with stuff that I talked in the last video. Which if you haven't seen, by the way, you should check it out, alright? It's top quality. Madero, he really wanted to start a revolution because he knew that if he didn't start a revolution, the people would, and then he would destroy all the hacendados, all the haciendas, all the capitalist societies. He would, and that wouldn't go well for him. So he decided that when he becomes president, he's going to only care about those, like the very few wealthies. So instead of he basically got rid of the dictatorship, which is good, but he replaced it more or less with an oligarchy, because very few people were actually benefited from Madero's presidency. It is said, which I'm pretty sure is true, that when Zapata came over, Madero said, "Thank you for your service. Here's some land. Now go shut up and do whatever you want to do." And Zapata's like, "Hold on, you're not going to help the people at all?" And Madero's like, "No, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to help them at all." And Zapata's like, "Wait, this is not good. You said it in your plan de San Luis Potosi, that you were going to help the people." And Madero's like, I don't really care about them. I'm in power. I'm helping all my fellow hacendados. I don't care about the people. And Zapata was outraged by this. And one more thing, Madero said, "Alright, thank you for helping me get into power. Now, please disarm all of your troops and go home. And I do not want you to have any armaments or anything." And that upset Zapata even more, because now it's like, "Thank you for your help, now shut up, now you don't have any power." And Zapata felt outraged. And so by this, he decided, you know what, I'm going to create my own plan. My Plan de Ayala, which was established on November 28th, 1911. And that's an important date, alright? That is something you need to know. Plan de Ayala is basically simple. Take the land, money, wealth from the hacendados to científicos, all the wealthies. By the way, científicos were like, okay, if you know Spanish, that means scientists, but basically that means getting anyone who wants to get rid of traditionalism, indigenous beliefs. So Zapata said anyone who is a científico, hacendado, wealthy dude, capitalist, we're taking all their land and giving it to the people who rightly deserve it. They deserve the land, they work on it, and they don't get paid for it, or they get paid very little, and this is not fair. So if I come into power and I establish things, they're gonna get the people are gonna get the land, and that's the important thing. And so with that, he decides to ally himself with three other people. He allies himself with Pancho Villa. He allies himself with Carranza, and he allies himself with Obregón. And so going back to what I said earlier, he comes from the South. And in the South, as opposed to the North, wealth is basically, in the North you weren't really a farmer, you were really a cattle rancher. So when it came to wealth, the more cattle you had, the more cattle you had, basically the wealthier you were. So when Pancho Villa was not distributing land, it wasn't because he was trying to be a total jackass. It was that he believed that cattle were more important, so he would give those out to his soldiers and to the people. He would give that out. So Pancho Villa didn't give out land because he didn't think that had that much monetary value to him, because he came from the north and land didn't mean much. Also in the north there weren't many people. So if there are not many people there, then there are less people who don't have any land. Like if I have, here, let me get a marker. If I have this land, all this land, and I divide it up into 4 pieces, well, that's enough for someone to survive on. But if you compare that to 6, if you compare it to dividing it to 6, well, it's obviously less land. Furthermore, if I divide it into like 32 different pieces, then like you barely have enough land. So basically, first of all, Danny, don't move, don't do that. Okay, that's my brother right there. He's gonna you can't see him, but he's just staring at me awkwardly. Okay, now go away. Anyway, so as I was saying, basically, because there were less people, the less land had to be divided, so basically you had more land. So Villa wasn't really concerned about land as much as he was concerned about cattle. Now, that's the complete opposite with Zapata, because in the South, land meant wealth. So basically, the less land you had, basically you're not wealthy. So when he started conquering and doing all this fun stuff, he directly divided the land, because that was, to him, that was the monetary value. So I'm pretty sure Paige is going to ask something about compare Villa and Zapata and how they're the same and how they're different or something. I can see him asking something like that. So please rewind this video right now and just go over those facts, because those facts are really important about Villa and Zapata. Were the same where they wanted to support the people, but they were different because they came from different areas and they had different beliefs on the monetary value. Okay, in the last part of this video, I'm going to talk about the Constitution of 1917, and that is the more important part. Now, as many things in history, in order for you to understand this, I have to give you some background. So I mentioned this dude called Carranza. Carranza was a wealthy landowner who basically, in my opinion, he just wanted to become president, and because he just wanted to get richer. But that's me, right? I'm pretty sure Paige has a few other words to say. But basically, Carranza was a wealthy dude, and so the U.S. loved this dude. He loved it. It's like Carranza was like that cheerleader. And the U.S. was like that nerdy dude who always has a crush on the cheerleader, but the cheerleader is like, no, just go away. You know, I don't like you. Just go away. All right, just chill. That was the relationship between the U.S. and Carranza. The U.S. wanted to do whatever it took to get Carranza in power, because they knew that Carranza had the capability of basically securing U.S. capitalist enterprise. That's the main reason why they love Carranza. And Carranza, of course, he's a hacendado, so he might have a little bit of sympathy for the United States and Britain, but not much. He still believes in the idea of Mexico for Mexicans. He doesn't like the idea of the U.S. coming in and making their own business, basically using Mexican land for their own good. He doesn't like that. Anyway, I just wanted to give you describe who Carranza was. Carranza did this. So later he joins forces with Obregón, Villa, and Zapata, and he eventually becomes the leader of something called the Constitutionalists. The Constitutionalists. And basically that is Constitutionalists, I can't write, I'll write it here. Constitutionalists. That's basically an anti-Huerta group. If you don't remember who Huerta was, he was Madero's general who backstabbed Madero. You just check out my previous video if you want to know more about Huerta. For this test, I don't think you need to know too much, because After all, Page specifically told us to focus on Villa Zapata in the 1917 Constitution. Now I know what you're saying. I haven't mentioned the 1917 Constitution yet. I will get to that in a second. Just hush puppies, alright? So eventually, in October 1914, they meet at Aguascalientes. Remember that? Aguascalientes? So they have that, and Zapata's the only one of these dudes who doesn't like Carranza. He knows Carranza is up to no good. He's just doesn't like Carranza, but he goes anyway. And eventually, they make Villa commander-in-chief of the Constitutionalist Army. This is also known as the Northern Division, but don't worry about that. So eventually, Carranza he stays in the capital until Zapata kicks out Carranza, but then the United States decides to support Carranza, so Carranza gets the capital back with the help of Obregón. So now this is like a war between Villa and Zapata versus Carranza and Obregón. And Obregón, just a little bit of background, he came from Sonora. And he liked industrialism, and he had sympathy for the middle class, and he also really enjoyed watching World War I occur because he eventually implemented those tactics in his battles. Eventually, Villa loses to Obregón because basically Villa. Well, actually, before doing that. For future reference, before we get into machine guns and all that stuff, the main thing that Villa did, and the main thing that basically destroyed any other opposition, was basically just a cavalry charge. So Villa would often get on his horse and ride with everyone and charge with his horse and everything, and get all of his bandits and whatever. And that cavalry charge would decimate his enemies. Now that works to a point. Because Obregón, he analyzes World War I, and he notices that if you just dig a trench, have a couple of barbed wire, that will stop the cavalry charge, and then you could just pick off his men one by one, which he does at Galea, and Villa kind of loses at this point. He no longer becomes a threat to Carranza. Eventually, Villa gets so mad that he invades Columbus, New Mexico, where he kills a bunch of people, but he's eventually kicked out, and the U.S. gets so mad that they send John J. Pershing to find Villa. Funny enough, nowadays I think there's a museum at Columbus, New Mexico it's just dedicated to the life of Pancho Villa. So the one thing that town is known for is just being attacked by Pancho Villa. That's funny. But anyway, now I'm going to talk about the actual convention. The actual 1917 Constitution. So, basically, Villa and Zapata no longer a major threat. Carranza's now in power with the help of the United States, but Carranza doesn't really like to admit that the United States helped because he hates the United States. Basically, this happened in Querétaro. I'll spell that out. Querétaro. Queretaro. Querétaro. December 1st, 1916. So, first of all, he had to decide who was going to be invited to create this new constitution. And if he's allowed to decide this doesn't turn out well. So he excludes women, and he excludes anyone who just did not agree with his previous ideas, his previous plan de Guadalupe. Anyone who didn't agree with this, he just didn't invite them. So basically, this is unfortunately a smart move for him because he's only inviting those who will support him. So basically, any idea that he proposes, most likely the convention's going to agree with him. And so basically, anything that he wants could theoretically become law. Don't like that about him, but whatever. So he claims that he's going to focus on the lawful purposes and the rights of workers to form unions, which in a way he does. He also, girls, you might want to listen to this, he does not give women the right to vote, or he doesn't give them citizenship, or he doesn't give them political rights. So if you want another reason to hate Carranza, yeah, that's another reason. Okay, so now I'm going to start going to the specific articles, and this is something that I can see Paige asking about, because this is the evidence that you can use to form questions about whether Carranza was a liberal or a conservative or whatever. This is something that you want to really pay attention about. Okay, so in Article 123, so 123, he dealt with labor rights. So he said labor rights can only be enacted by the federal government, all right? Not the state government, no local government. The federal government controls labor rights. So basically, that means he gets to control labor rights. Now, he does do a couple good things. He says there's an 8-hour workday, so you don't have to work your butt off every single day of your life. He does give childbirth benefits. He includes pre- and postnatal maternity leave, so that seems nice. He also says that if you have 50 or more women in a company, you have to have on-site childcare. So basically, you have to have childcare, so you don't have a bunch of women leaving work early to take care of their children. Which is smart, because if you have children being taken care of, then there are more women who can go out and get jobs, which in the end can help industrialize the country. So that's good. Then he also abolished debt servitude, which is really good. All right, I hate to admit it, but that's a good thing. So basically, if you are in debt, you go into you become a slave basically, or you're basically you have to go into this intense servitude. So Carranza said no more of that. You don't have to become like a slave. I'm abolishing all that. Now, Article 27 deals with property rights. Basically, he said the nation owns all the property, and the nation itself has the right to confiscate any of that property whenever they want. So if it feels like it, so like if this one rowdy hacendado is just being horrible, yeah, you can just take that. The government can immediately take away that land, and the hacendado can't do anything about it. So that seems kind of mean, but whatever. I want you to kind of think about what the pros and cons about that are. He also, okay, this is a good thing. He allows the ejidos. The ejidos. Remember, if you don't remember, ejidos, EJIDOS. They were indigenous lands, and back when Diaz was in power, the guy who started this entire revolution, he was confiscating these lands. This was part of his plan of getting rid of all indigenous or traditional aspects of the Mexican culture by basically getting rid of the indigenous lands. So now Carranza is saying, okay, you guys can have your land back. That is great. You can do whatever you want. I'm letting you have it, and that's great. That's awesome. All right. He also, in Article 3. He outlaws any church-controlled education. So, I guess that's okay. I mean, I have a feeling Obregón has something to do with this, because Obregón really hated the church. He did not like the church at all. Which I don't know what's the problem. I mean, why can't we all be friends and with the church? But whatever, you know what? Obregón and Carranza said, no more church education, that's out, no more. And typically church education, I believe, was free. That'll play a role later. He basically, what else did he do? He said foreigners can own land as long as their country doesn't protect that land, basically. So this goes back to his idea that the nation owns the land and that they can take away that land. This basically, if I'm a hacendado, all right, I go to Mexico, all right. I'm a United States capitalist, I go to Mexico, I buy land, alright? The Mexicans say, awesome, you can buy this land, you can do whatever you want with this land, alright? We will let you have it. However, if let's just say something happens, like I do something stupid and the country takes away that land, Mexico takes away that land, the United States cannot come and say, give me back my land. The United States cannot do that. According to Mexican law, that is not allowed. Alright? So basically, Mexico's saying, alright, you can farm, you can do whatever you want in this land, this land is your land, but you can't get the United States involved at all. You can't just, if we do something and we confiscate your land, you can't cry to mommy back in the United States and get your land back. No, that's not the way it works here. So this is all sounds great. You know, this is very progressive. This seems very leftist, and that's great. All right, you know, maybe Carranza isn't such a bad guy. You know, he cares about the people. He cares about workers. He slightly cares about women. He's doing all these great things. He's limiting the power of the hacendados and foreign capitalists. This seems great, and this is all great for 3 years. Until he says, haha, JK, go, I mean, he switches to the right. And he basically says, alright, I'm going to protect private property. And he's going to favor capitalists. And he's going to weaken latifundia. Which is basically, sorry, that doesn't make any sense. He enforces latifundia. So basically, with all this, he just doesn't help the people in the end. Very little land is distributed for the people. He returns haciendas to the owners, so that's like the complete 180 of what his constitution wanted to do. He repressed the working class. He actually shut down the Casa del Obrero Mundial. Let me see if I can spell that. Do I have room anywhere? I'll spell it here. Casa del Obrero Mundial. CASA space DEL space OBRERO space MUNDIAL. Casa del Obrero Mundial. Which basically was a giant, like, was a giant union to protect workers' rights. So he shut that down. He also, he promised free education, but that never happened. And in the end, he didn't support foreign interests. We're still talking about Carranza. This is still the cheerleader person, where the United States loves this guy, but he doesn't care about the United States. He believes in Mexico for Mexicans, and he doesn't care about the United States. So a bunch of United States folks, a bunch of Americans and British dudes were trying to say okay, hey Carranza, can I have some land? You know, just to make a little bit of extra money, cha-ching. And Carranza's like, no, get out. So I guess the United States was mad about that. But Carranza said, no, I don't care. I'm not doing this. And then Carranza sort of takes a turn to a worst when in 1919, April 10th, 1919, he actually kills Zapata. And that's the main reason why I don't like him, because Zapata was the only worthy dude. So that's what he does. And then in May 1920, he is killed, leaving Obregón to take over the presidency. And he rules during the 1920s. He's also partially responsible for killing Villa. Another soft spot for me. I like Villa and Zapata. They're my bros, all right? I even named my car Pancho because I love Villa so much. Anyway, that's it. That's all you need to know about the Mexican Revolution. Again, if you really want to know more, just check out my other video where I talk about the beginning of the revolution. But that's all I have to offer. I think I'm pretty sure that was less than an hour, so I'm happy about that because people have been telling me, Jeremy, keep it chill. Don't make it an hour. And I'm definitely gonna try and avoid doing a 2-hour one. So, other than that, that's all I really have to say. I will be making scripts and making more videos for the time to come. I believe the next one is World War I/World War II. But I have to check. I have a lot of stuff to do. Thankfully, it's dead week, so I have enough time to make enough videos. But I hope this really helps, guys. I really hope this works. I love history. I do this for fun, and this final is not one that you could just wing at the last minute. This is something you have to really work for, and I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to help you guys so you guys can really just knock that final out of the park. So with that, thank you so much, and see you later.